Howdy and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. We continue Midway week with an offering from Frog. This is their Wildcat Mark IV Carrier Fighter in 1/72nd scale. This issue is from 1974. Kit number is F432. And we've got box art that was developed by a gentleman by the name of Rush. And so the Wildcat Mark IV is the British equivalent to the F4F-4 Wildcat with the U.S. Navy. This is a kit that was originally issued in 1972 by Frog as a bag kit. So let's talk a little bit about the Wildcat at Midway. On Midway itself, you had VMF 221 that was led by Major Floyd Parks. It was nicknamed Red. VMF 221 had a mixed squadron. They had 21 Buffaloes and 7 Wildcats. 2 of those were not serviceable at the time. So when the Japanese made their first attack and only attack on the island, they were able to put up 20 Buffaloes and 6 Wildcats. Out of those that went up, 15 were shot down, 13 Buffaloes and 2 Wildcats. 9 were damaged severely, leaving only 2 aircraft that were not beat up and available to fight again, that being 1 F2A Buffalo and 1 Wildcat. The squadron made one pretty successful pass, shot down a number of Vals on their first pass, and then quickly got overcome by the Zeros that were escorting. Out of that group of pilots was a young captain by the name of Marion Carl, who would go on to greater fame in Guadalcanal, became a great test pilot, fantastic gentleman. He was the only person who shot down a Zero out of VMF 221 on that fateful day. Other squadrons that had Wildcats were VF3, that was based on the Yorktown. They were led by Lieutenant Commander Jimmy Thatch, famous Thatch of the Thatch Weave. So VF3 was originally a Saratoga squadron, but when Yorktown came back to Pearl Harbor, their VF squadron was kind of beat up. They were VF-42 was on the Yorktown at Coral Sea, so they kind of made a hodgepodge squadron again. They utilized 16 aircraft from VF-42, or actually pilots, I should say. They had 16 VF-42 pilots and 11 VF-3 pilots. But they embarked on the Yorktown as a full group, including VS3, VT3, and VB3. For the actual fight, they're known for the escort mission that Jimmy Thatch flew with 6 aircraft from VF3. They were assigned to escorting VT3, and there was some debate prior to the battle whether or not they should be escorting closer to the torpedo bombers or to the dive bombers. At Coral Sea, the torpedo bombers, did pretty well. They didn't get harassed very much. Most of the losses occurred with the dive bombers, so there was some thought, hey, let's put them with the dive bombers, but then there was also thought that, well, the torpedo bombers, scored a number of hits, and that maybe they'd be going after the torpedo bombers first at the next battle. So ultimately, they decided, we'll escort closer to VT3. When they got close to the Japanese fleet, Zeros, the Combat Air Patrol latched onto them, and Thatch and the other 5 pilots got into a protracted dogfight for quite a while. This was the first real effective use of the Thatch Weave, which involved 2 aircraft crisscrossing each other, so that way if anybody got on their tail, the opposite could shoot down at them, so they would go back and forth like this. In the first pass from the Zeros, one of the Wildcats was shot down in flames, but the remainder were able to do pretty good holding off the Zeros and managed to shoot down some aircraft themselves. They claimed 6 shot down and 2 damaged for the loss of the one. One of the other aircraft out of the 5 remaining crashed on the Hornet while they were trying to land, and the 4 others landed back on Yorktown. You also had VF-6, which was on the Enterprise. They had 27 Wildcats. They were supposed to be escorting, of course, VB-6 and VT-6, but they got disoriented or kind of confused on the way in, and they ended up latching on to VT-8 from Hornet, the famous Torpedo 8. But they're on different frequencies, so there was a prearranged signal for them to be called down to defend VT-6, but they were following VT-8, so they never got the call to come down and defend them. They started running out of fuel. They turned around, went back, not really getting engaged in anything. And then finally, you had VF-8 off the USS Hornet. They had 27 Wildcats as well, and they went on the flight to nowhere. So the Hornet's air group, took a completely different direction. Commander Waldron of VT-8 thought different, said, "Hey, I'm going to go on a different bearing." Broke off from the group and went after the carriers, what he believed was in the right place, and turns out he was right, and they ended up getting slaughtered because they went in by themselves. But the rest of air group, Hornet air group, kept following out on that bearing, found absolutely nothing, extended it further, thinking, hey, just go a little further, we'll find them. Finally, they gave up and turned around, and the result was a lot of the aircraft ended up running out of gas and going to the sea. VF-8 ended up losing 10 F4Fs to ditching. Some tried to make it back to Midway, but they ended up losing 10 aircraft through that. So more aircraft were lost through that than through combat. In addition to all that, when the Japanese did mount their attacks on the Yorktown, the Wildcats put up a good defense and shot down quite a number of Vals and Kates during that counterattack. And so one last thing that I'll mention about the Wildcat at Midway, this was the debut of the F4F-4, which the main difference between that and the Dash 3 was that it went to a folding wing and a 6-gun wing. The pilots did not like it getting transitioned over. That happened just prior to the battle. The earlier model, the Dash 3, had the fixed wing and only 4 guns, but the guns had a lot more ammunition, so they had much more longer firing time, which the pilots preferred over the shorter firing time. The reason why they went to the 6 guns supposedly is a request from the British, who thought that the 4 guns were underarmed, so they wanted a 6 gun, so they accommodated that, and that ended up getting incorporated into the Navy's aircraft. And then, of course, the folding wings added weight with no commensurate increase in power. So the F4F-4 was more sluggish than the Dash 3. The advantage was that you could store a lot more fighters on the carrier. You could put 3 fighters for every 2 that used to be able to fit on there. So that increased the fighter complement on the carriers for Midway, which was actually advantageous. So trade-off, not as effective, but you got a lot more of them. So that's what happened with the Wildcat at Midway. A little quick short synopsis. So let's look at the kit itself. So we've got this pretty nice watercolor artwork, as mentioned by Rush. You've got Wildcat Mark IV carrier fighter, which is interesting that that's the British designation, but yet they're showing an American F4F-4 on the box cover. Frog, 72nd scale. Then on the side, we've got different languages. Lots of different languages here. And they're advertising their famous Skybase that you could mount on a table or mount on a wall. And here we got the same box art. We got kit number F432. And the same thing on this side. Bottom of the box has a nice and handy two aircraft, 3-color views of one from the Royal Navy Service and one from the U.S. Kit requires paint, and this is part of the Rovex group at the time that this kit was produced. We open our box. Standard lighter cardboard fold-over box with everything's printed directly on it. On the bottom box, the bottom part, they utilized every surface they could. And on one side here, you've got other kits that were available: a Lag, Vampire, Tempest 5, Spitfire 8 and 9, a Typhoon. We reviewed that kit before. Heinkel 162, P40E, and finally a Gloucester Gladiator. So kit instructions. We've got a little bit of history of the aircraft up here. Got information about assembly. Open them up. We've got some special instructions here. What the codes or the keys mean in the instructions. And our steps are broken down into small assembly parts, which is good. And it looks like we've also got painting guides going along with it. So pilot, there's actually a 2-piece engine, which is nice. Drop tanks, multi-piece landing gear, which is pretty nice. And they do give you clear parts for the little windows that are on the bottom. Those who aren't aware, the Wildcat did not have a cockpit floor, and you could see through the bottom of the aircraft out these windows. And then we've got the assembling of the wings and tail. The wings are not folding, as some of these Wildcat kits we've seen in the past have folding wings. This one does not. And you can't assemble the landing gear up or down. And finally the canopy and the mast. On the back side here, we've got assembly tips, how to deal with the stand, and if you want to send in for missing parts, got your little thing there. So those are instructions. The next step, we'll look at the decals. It's got the little tissue cover on them, and they haven't yellowed. These would probably still work. Registration looks pretty good. They're little pale, I should say. Yeah, they're not real strong colors, but the red's pretty decent in the RAF markings. So this is of an actual. Both of these are actual specific aircraft, or at least purporting to be. For the Navy one, which is this one here, let me show you the color thing here. So this one here, as it shows on the box here, is an F4F-4 from VF9 off the USS Ranger in Operation Torch, North Africa in November 42. And this is actually pretty accurate. The Operation Torch aircraft did get a yellow surround to match up with the British markings to make it less confusing, because the British also flew Wildcats for Operation Torch. So this is an actual real aircraft. The serial number that they're giving on here is 12141, and I don't think that is accurate because that serial number matches up to an aircraft that was written off in a crash while it was with VMO 251 around the same time that this aircraft was over in North Africa. So I have a feeling that serial number they're giving on here is not accurate for this particular aircraft. I was able to locate some photos of the squadron, number of aircraft from the squadron taken on that actual operation, and I did source a few pictures of this actual one, White 10 from the squadron, And the other reason why I think that this aircraft is not correct is because the picture of this aircraft shows it having a carrier deck mishap where the entire tail got ripped off on landing, hooking on, and the whole tail gets ripped off. So I highly doubt that this aircraft somehow ended up down in the South Pacific a couple months later with another squadron. So that's the VF-9. And then the British one here was a Mark IV, and it was with, they're showing here with 896 Squadron Fleet Air Arm from the HMS Pursuer in February of 44. This has got a squadron coding of 8N, matching up to the decals on there. And it's got a serial number of JV429. So that was an actual aircraft, and it did fly with the 896 Squadron at that time. But prior to that, it was assigned to 881 Squadron. It was coded 2N. It was being flown by a Lieutenant TLM Brander, and he's credited with shooting down an HE-177 of all things. So I was able to source some photographs from this squadron of these aircraft. Wasn't able to cite the specific one that's being represented here, but some of the squadron aircraft and also the HMS Pursuer at the time. So let's take a look at that here. Okay, so let's take a look at the plastic now. So this one's all on rectangular trees. And here's our fuselage half. It's got all raised panel lining, details, everything's raised. You have engraved lines for the cowling, some engraved lining for the rudder, some representation of fabric covering on here, kind of crude. But pretty well detailed for this size. Nothing on the interior. The raised lines are pretty nice. Yeah, they're not the smallest, but they're not the biggest. Here we've got our landing gear components, kind of just tubes. And we got part of a drop tank here. We've got one of the wheels. This I think is for the wheels up version. And then we've got the other half. And in case those of you who are wondering, this area right here was originally for cowl machine guns that came with the original F4F. There's the back half of the engine. There's our tail, our horizontal stabilizer. Similar again, some representation of fabric covering and raised lines. It's not even missing part of a wing. Okay, so here we've got top part of our wing, representation of the gun bay doors with some DZU fasteners, I guess. Fabric covering on the outside, or on the aileron. Little small parts, looks like control column, pitot tube. There's our pilot seat, pretty weak. And I think this is the oil cooler on the bottom of the wing. Here's the lip for the cowling. Then here we have the other wing. There's our pilot. He's pretty weak, in addition to having a hole blown right through his guts. So there's that. We've got the bottom half of the wing. I guess that wasn't the oil cooler, because here it is on here. And some more raised panel line detail. We do have some inscribed lines for the fold. And we are missing one of the bottoms of the wing here. Didn't realize that. There's our propeller. Little thick and heavy, inside here. It was a cuffed propeller on some of these, but this is a little heavy. It's another one of our horizontal stabilizers. Some more gear parts. And, oh, there it is. There's the wing. Okay. All right, there's the other half of the wing. Yeah. Here's the front half of our engine. That's very simplified. It's nice that it's a, two-row engine, but that's really simplified. Here's part of our drop tank with a simple post to glue it onto the bottom of the wing. And then finally, our clear canopy. We've got very, very raised framing. Pretty thick. It's not as bad. Yeah, maybe. I was going to say it's not as bad as an Airfix one, but not that much better. Looks like we do have some sort of bubble maybe in there. So it's not the best. There have been worse, but definitely for 1970s, seems like this should be a little bit better. And then finally we got the sky base in sky blue color. And as you see here, you got the little hole, so you can't hang it on the wall if you want. Then mount this on the front. Then you get the little swiveling part that would then glue into the bottom of the aircraft. So there you go. So cute little kit. There were a few other 72nd scale Wildcats around at the time. So this is kind of mid-pack as far as the overall quality for early 70s. Some better, some definitely a lot worse. So as far as this frog issue is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, the original issue was in 1972. It's a bag kit. Then you have this one here from 1974. There was an issue in 1975 from a company called Remus Play Kits out of UK. I think it might have been some sort of crafting store or something. Maybe some viewers from the UK can tell us about that Remus Play Kits. They did do specific box art that's actually, I think, pretty nice, even nicer than this, for that issue and that issue only. 76 Frog reboxed this, but with that flip open lid version of the box. And then, of course, Frog went belly up pretty soon after that. Novo did their first release in 78, with completely new artwork of a funny thing, it's actually the artwork is of an F4F-3 as opposed to an F4F-4, which is pretty common for the rest of these issues. They're playing fast and loose with which version of the Wildcat this is. Next one was an 89 by Iskra. ISKRA from Russia. The 90s saw an issue from ZTS Plastic from Poland. And Model Hobby also did a 90s issue. They're from the Czech Republic. And then the final issue was, not too long ago, in 2002 by Eastern Express, also from Russia. So this kit, compared to other Frog kits, this has actually got a fairly limited release from everybody else. Some of these Frog kits are literally released by 15, 20 other companies. But this one's only limited to six different companies repopping this. So pretty small for Frog. So anyway, if you built one of these, as always, tell us about it in the comments section. If you got one of these sitting on your shelf, take a picture of it, send it in. The email address is in the channel description. Well, thanks for watching. Be sure to keep watching for the rest of Midway week, and have yourself a great rest of your day.